Hey guys, it's Nicole, and I am up with today's Free Flow Wednesday video, and today I'm going to be working on this sketch on the right, which is a two-page sketch from Scrapbook Generation. There is a single-page sketch that I showed on the left as well. These are free sketches to download from Scrapbook Generation. For about just under 2 years, they had a free online magazine, and they would always issue a single page, a double page, a card, and a tag sketch each month. They are very large magazines packed full of all kinds of different inspiration and sketches, and typically each month they would feature a different manufacturer. They would have a reader's gallery, a lot of good stuff in there. They no longer publish the magazine, however, you can still go onto their website and you can still view the magazines, you can still download the free sketches. And I will post links below for both of those places on their website just to kind of save you some time surfing on Scrapbook Generation's website. I am currently working through these sketches in order of when the issues were published, and I'm participating with some other scrapbookers online as part of a forum. One of the girls had started the challenge, and we're just kind of slowly working through them. And I am going to try to do a process video for each of them. So far, I'm sticking with that. I'm falling a little bit behind as far as when the deadlines are due for being eligible for like a prize on the website, but I'm not so much focused on that. But I did want to challenge myself to go ahead and do these sketches. The magazines I was always blown away with, always found inspiration in them, and I had used a couple of the sketches here and there, but I had never taken the chance to sort of print them all out and sort of challenge myself to use them all, and so that's what I am going to be doing. Now, in the magazine, they will take the sketch and they will show you 5 different layouts that they had done using the sketch. And so when I was sort of doing my prep work and pulling photos and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I would sort of do a quick run through of the magazine and see if anything stood out to me. And one of the variations on the 2-page sketch sort of stuck out for me. And as far as my particular layout, I was kind of going along with that loosely, I guess. And when I was pulling photos and looking at the sketch and trying to get a game plan, I tend to make like a rough draft of the sketch on just like a post-it note and kind of figure out what it is that I want to do. And I had come up with this idea that instead of using the 4 or 5 different patterns that they had depicted on the right-hand side of the sketch, I wanted to not realistically mimic mermaid scales, but I kind of wanted to have something on the right where it was sort of this cascading layers of mermaid colored papers, if that makes sense. And I had even considered doing like a large scallop border punch with each of them. By the time I sat down to do the layout, I had kind of spaced that. I forgot, that was an idea that I had come up with. So I just stuck to basic strips, which I will be trimming down here in a minute. And then on the left, I switched up my photos similar to one of the examples in the magazine where it was more of this large photo collage on the left. And I just did like a rough resize of my photos when I sent them off to print, and then when I got them back, I went ahead and just trimmed them down. Now this would have been much faster had I done this on like a 12 by 12 canvas in Photoshop and kind of done it like that and then sent my print off that way. But at the time I wasn't sure if I was gonna go ahead and stick to that, and I wanted to give myself a little bit of wiggle room because I had considered playing around with the idea of doing on the left side, making my own like different sized Polaroid frames and putting the photos in there. And it's just one of those things where when I sat down to do the layout, I decided that I wanted to have, more of a just nice laid out collage instead. So that's what I went with. And when I was pulling my stash, I very quickly realized that the purples and teals that I had in my mind do not live in my stash. So I found these papers, and they are from various lines from My Mind's Eye. They are all super old, but what I was noticing, and especially with a lot of the older collections from My Mind's Eye, is they sort of had the same underlining tones to them. So I was able to pull from completely different collections, and they still end up working together. They don't necessarily match shade for shade, but I was able to kind of get what I needed out of them. And I did throw in this random strip of green pattern paper. I just kept coming back to it when I was pulling through my my stash of My Mind's Eye, and I just kept coming to it, and I just decided if I keep looking at it, I'm gonna go ahead and just use it. And I did like that it sort of broke up the different strips between the purple and the blue. And then I ran across one that was a tiny stripe, and it sort of depicted a lot of the different colors that I was using, and that is something that I prefer to have when I'm using a lot of different pattern papers. Is I kind of like to have one that is sort of representing all of those colors and tying everything in, and that's just a personal preference for me. You totally don't have to do that. And then I only had one sheet of this wood grain paper, and so I wanted it to be my background. So what I did was I ended up cutting off a 2-inch strip, and I'm just going to glue them down onto white cardstock. And when I put these pattern paper strips across the white area, it's going to look like my 2 base papers are that wood grain, when really I only had the one sheet. So there's a tip for you if you only have one sheet of something and you want it to sort of look as if it's your background, is sort of cut it in a way that you're seeing it on each side of the layout, but then you're leaving yourself open, a 12-inch section in the middle that you can fill with other things. And your paper will mimic as if it's 2 separate background sheets. So at this point, I am pretty much almost done laying out these strips. And what I did was, I'm sure you saw, I just laid them out, figured out an order that I liked, and then I took a picture on my phone just in case I got them like mixed up or out of order. Or a lot of times I have to get up and leave and go help my kids with something, or sometimes I've come back the next day. Ooh, excuse me. So I like taking a picture of something like that so that I can come back and reference it. And then I did not measure any of my strips. I just kind of put them in my paper trimmer and just started cutting. I didn't want to get into this thing of this one's going to be 1 inch, this one's going to be half an inch. I started cutting, and I prayed that by the time I got done that it would add up to a 12-inch span. And some of them I purposely cut like 2.5 inches wide, just so that I, if I needed to, I could layer on top of it. And then I went ahead, flipped my paper over, cut everything off, and then because I had put adhesive on the whole strip, these are basically just going to need to be pulled off of my paper trimmer and stuck over on this left portion of my page. And I am going to go and trim just a little thin sliver off of the edge of this layout, because you can see I've got a little bit of a gap. And my trick to dealing with that is I will just trim my paper down. I have trimmed my layouts down probably up to maybe 1/4 inch, and it does not bother me at all. By the time it's in my albums, it's perfectly fine. I am going to apologize that I forgot that my phone was in frame, and I'd gotten sucked into this show. It's the People versus OJ, and it's only 10 episodes long, and I was really trying to finish the series because it was getting good. And typically I will have my phone like out of frame where I can still see it, but for whatever reason that night I just was not paying attention. So I apologize if that's distracting to anybody. But if you have not watched that show and you have Netflix, I would recommend it. And of course now I'm in like the TV show slump where I don't know what to watch next, and there's only 1 season of that show like done. I don't even know when they're gonna start filming the 2nd season. So And then at this point, I went ahead and adhered my photo collage, and then I've got a large photo, which is a 4x6 over here on the right. And then I have this smaller photo of the actress that was playing Little Mermaid. And these photos are from an outdoor play that I took my daughter to. It was a local entertainment group that had done their own presentation of the Little Mermaid. And we were not allowed to take pictures during the show. And so I just thought, oh, it'll be like any other show. I'll be able to find a photo on Google Images or Pinterest or anything later. Not the case. I somehow managed to find, like, I think I found the actress's Instagram account and found this photo on there. And so I printed it out really small because for whatever reason it was not a good quality image. Like, it was pretty blurry. But I wanted to have one photo of the actual show, and not being able to take any pictures, I was hoping I could rely on press photos or something, and I could not find them, and I don't even know why. I'm not sure if it's just because it was a local company that put on the show or what, but I took the one that I could find, and that's what I went with. And then in this open area between my photos is where I decided that I wanted to do the title and journaling, and I believe that that's where it was depicted in the sketch. I can't remember off the top of my head. But most of these sketches, by the time you've adjusted different things that work for you, you can pretty much go your own way. Like, if your title is going to be much longer than a title that's depicted on the sketch, you can typically find somewhere to put it on your layout. Maybe you do your titles, a certain way that just works for your style and your flow. I say go with it. I feel like I love sketches because I can either completely follow them and just sort of not have to necessarily be creative from scratch, but I can just sort of follow the instructions and kind of plug and play and plug in my paper, plug in my supplies, plug in my photos, and just go with it. And then there's times where I will look at a sketch and I will use a sketch for different elements on it. Maybe I'm just following the way that the photos are arranged, or maybe I'm only using the way that they've done their title or the way that they've arranged their background papers and that sort of thing. And that's just, I don't know, I love sketches just because you can use the same sketch 10 times in a row and come out with 10 completely different layouts, and they don't all look like they came from the same sketch. And in particular, I like the sketches from Scrapbook Generation because they tend to use pretty basic size photos, like a lot of 4x6, a lot of things that are easy to crop down. Like, if you just shotgun your prints and you print them all in 4x6, and then you wonder, well, what am I supposed to do when I get them back and I've got a sketch that has smaller size photos? Typically, you can get away with cropping them down to a 4x4 or even a 3x4, and they use a lot of those in their sketches as well. I went ahead and just kind of mimicked the circular elements that they had scattered across the sketch, and I punched some circles with vellum and glitter paper, and then I'm using a mixture of enamel dots, sequins, and then the Nuvo drops in the Morning Dew color, which is basically clear, and it dries super clear, like more clear than glossy accents. It almost looks like wood grain enamel dots on my paper, which I love. And then I lost the footage of when I did the journaling, but I just type it up on my computer, print it out into strips, and then glue it down in that space. And that is my completed layout. So as always, thank you for watching. Please check the description box below for links to the online magazine, the free sketches, as well as my channel where I will be continuing to work through these free sketches for the next couple of months. Thank you.